Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We are in Strasbourg now, and I have the pleasure of having an exceptional guest with us. He's an Ukrainian journalist who is an activist for peace in Ukraine, and he was imprisoned in a Ukraine prison for several years. He just is waiting for the ruling of the Supreme Court about his case, and at the moment he's escaped from Ukraine, and I have the pleasure to interview him for you now. Welcome.
Welcome.
Please introduce yourself. What's your name?
My name is Ruslan Kotsaba. I am the first prisoner of conscience by organization named like Amnesty International. I jail the prison for more than 500 days because I am a pacifist and I have criticism the mobilization process from 2014 years in Ukraine. So now I go away from Ukraine because my criminal case is in the Supreme Court in Ukraine, and it's maybe a few months, and that I have a bad situation if I don't come here, because in Ukraine now I have an opportunity to go back to the prison after starting the war.
So just to resume, Mr. Kotsaba has escaped from Ukraine after being imprisoned just for one reason, because he's an activist for peace. And in Ukraine nowadays, demanding peace, working for peace, is considered as a betrayal of national government and of national policies. So I think that this is a very important aspect to consider. And I personally think that asking for peace could never be considered as a crime, because freedom of expression is a value that the European Union protects and defends, and peace is a universal value that we all should defend. So thank you again, Mr. Kotsaba, for being here with us. In light of all that you said so far, do you think that Zelensky's government is a democratic government, as the EU says?
First, I want to say that I think that President Zelensky is a liar, because when was the election where he won and takes 73% for his victory, he has a slogan that I am the president of peace. And after 2 years, we think that Zelensky it's like an analog ex-president Poroshenko, because he is a very military president now. War, President Zelensky moves Ukraine to non-democratic state, because his policy is like a dictator policy, because for these months he without any court decision he closed near 10 opposition parties. Many opposition politics go also to prisons, or they need to go away from Ukraine, like Ruslan. And he closed all information, TV channels, all media. So in solution, Ruslan said that nowadays Zelensky is not the democracy president at all. He said that Zelensky is not an independent president, because his policy is not in interest of Ukrainian society, and maybe some countries like USA or like Great Britain wants by hands of Ukrainian people, by hands of President Zelensky, to fight with Russia, because they have some profits of this war for their economic and for their future.
I remark that you are making very hard, very heavy, accusations about President Zelensky government. You say that he's a liar, that he's a dictator, that he's sort of corrupted because he pursues his personal interest instead of the Ukrainian people's one. I ask you one further question. In your opinion, what is the role of mass media, Ukrainian mass media and European mass media in this situation of war with Russia?
He says that in Ukraine, after starting the war, there are no any freedom of voice, freedom of speech, because all TV channels are blocked, are closed, and there's only there's many channels, but they have only one government programs in the regime of news marathon, where you can hear only one position. Yes, they tell Ukrainian society only about victories, but not about any problems because of war. And government propaganda used very aggressive language. So if you want to say that you are for some peace process, for some maybe negotiation or some agreements to stop the war, you will have claimed like an agent of Putin or agent of Russia, and we see that the same situation in European media. Also, all politics who want to say something about process or some agreements to stop the war, they also are like a white crown in their countries, and they have problems with media, have problems with government, and so these voices are not here maybe at a big audience. He said that this information policy of transnational media big projects, they are support big war in the whole world because they have some owners, and these owners maybe have good contracts for some military lobbies, so they support for this conflict in Ukraine maybe every day. He says that this information policy of media helps fire starters of this war, and he, like Alex, says that the Great War in Rwanda started after maybe some half of a year. There was a famous radio station named Radio of 1000 Hills. Yes, and after this there started a big war. So there's a great role of media in the war in Ukraine, I think also. He says that for this information policy, maybe all media once upon a time have also questions from society and questions from European courts. Because of this journalists media policy, every day in Ukraine died people.
So, in your opinion, in this precise moment, what is the road to peace? What should the European Union and all other international leaders do to favor a peace process?
I think European politics do not be scared to say the voice of peace movements, because it is for interest of European people, for European electorate of European politics. He said that progressive politics could watch one step ahead to understand that every new day of war will be more popular the ideas of pacifism than it was yesterday or months ago.
Бо кожна людина,
Every person who has lost
свій бізнес, чи, скажімо,
loved maybe people or his person on the war, his brains evolution to the pacifism movement at some time.
What I need to know from you is something more peculiar. I mean, in concrete terms, what can we do to gain the target of peace? I mean, okay, we need to start negotiations with Russia, of course, but as Mr. Zelensky, the governor of Ukraine, has forbidden in his country any negotiating process with Russia, what should EU leaders do to, solve this problem? Do you think that attempts by, Turkish leader Erdogan could be a good opportunity for this, or do you think that should be different other political subjects who could be more fit than him to represent both the parties and help this negotiation to happen?
At first it says that the worst of situation that President Zelensky not independent in his cabinet, so maybe we need negotiation between Russia and the stakeholders of this conflict. Maybe it will be United States or Great Britain or some European institutions.
І в зв'язку з тим, що країни НАТО,
Then that it will be maybe like a big deal between global West and Russian Federation in future.
Зеленський мав би разом з тими лідерами непризнаних республік чекати в коридорі.
Erdogan has a good role of mediator of this conflict because he really support both sides, and it's very good for economical financial situation in Turkey. So he have a very clever for Turkey policy. Erdogan have a clever policy because he sell Ukraine some drones and buy cheaper Russian oil and gas, so he's in profits from both sides.
Єдина проблема,
But only one main problem that he don't understand that Zelensky is not 100% independent politics. So he once upon a time Zelensky can do what maybe he hear from Boris Johnson, because after visit Boris Johnson in March in Kiev, all peace process that started in Istanbul was closed.
I understand that, in your opinion, President Zelensky is sort of a hostage, is sort of controlled by big Western countries such as US and UK. And you call them stakeholders. That means that there are some subjects that have a personal, private interest in this conflict, such as, I repeat, these two countries, UK and US, but also maybe private stakeholders?
The global goal for Great Britain and USA is to have profits of economical of their countries, because after starting the war, the economic of European Union is destroyed. We see that in Germany, in other countries, many industries stopped, blocked, and their production is non-concurrent, because USA have opportunity to take electricity or oil or gas 2 or 3 or 4 times cheaper than European Union. So in global by economics, it will be big problems in European Union. So the countries need to understand that your European society after this winter will be destroyed. This category like a middle class.
So you
And Zelensky, he thinks that Zelensky it's like in English word like a puppet from USA and United Kingdom political establishment.
You think that in this conflict the actors that enjoy the biggest benefit in the global competitive market are big competitors of the European Union on the economic point of view, such as the US and UK, because after this war and because of this war, the European Union will be less powerful and less rich than before, so less competitive than before because of the high prices and high costs of energy and of raw materials. So there is a sort of a second goal for these big powers, big global leaders to destroy European competitiveness, isn't it?
He thinks that the global goal of United States is to have not only lose the Russian Federation, they also want to European Union be like a global victim of this war, because the economical situation will be very bad, and for the United States, European Union is like a global economic concurrent, so they want to lose this concurrent by the war in Ukraine. So Ukraine in this situation is not like an instrument for lose the European Union and maybe in future lose the Russian Federation.
Last question. If you could ask something to Italian government, what would you ask?
We would like to say that now in Italy there's a big Ukrainian diaspora, a big Ukrainian community of refugees. They're very performance, they work on Italian economy, but I think that the new Italian government needs to stop the war, to have more diplomatic position, to have some initiative, like some maybe solution of some agreements in future, or maybe some role of mediator, because the war is crime against humanity.
І ще, щоб вони, ці політики, вірніше, ці люди, прості італійські
Like a conclusion, he wants to say that he thinks that Italian society needs to see what the politics in Italy don't want to do any steps for peace process and don't maybe vote for them in the next elections.
Двох Британії і Америці, які найперше зацікавлені у бенефітах війни.
I may assure you that Italian people are in the biggest majority in favor of peace, not on going on with this war, and we all support the Ukrainian people, but we don't think that this support should be made making this war last longer. My very last questions regards EU sanctions against Russia. What do you think about sanctions such as inhibiting the release of visas to Russian citizens who would like to come to Europe, or personal sanctions to people like Alexander Dugin, or similar sanctions against Russia that, according to our European Commission, could be useful to stop Russian aggression to Ukraine?
He thinks that political sanctions are not effective because after starting war there is no problem with Russian economics. They have high prices for oil, gas, corn, and all European countries, in all countries, every family have new bills. They need to pay for heat, they need to pay more prices for some petrol, and it's a big problem with inflation. So he thinks that the policy of sanction is not effective, like it was not effective in Cuba or in Iran or in North Korea, because the political regimes of this country are stable and they don't have any democracy reforms. So he says that Russian economic don't have now any problems of this sanction. So they have some countries mediators like Turkey that have opportunity like a mediator to have support to go away from the sanctions. So maybe it's only the Russian people have problems because they don't have any visa to come to European Union, but they don't. But after this reason, they need to stay in Russia. So we don't see any demonstrations or decreasing of popularity of President Putin.
I thank you very much, and I think that today in my office in Strasbourg, I just wanted to give the voice and to listen to the voice of a Ukrainian citizen who is a voice of opposition, and it's an opposition that has been violently silenced in his country. And what the European Union should do is always give a voice to oppositions, to different thoughts, to different opinions, and to give the same dignity to all parties, to all ways to see the solution of these problems, because democracy is just that. I thank you very much for your interpretation, and I really hope that your demands of a strategy for peace will be considered in a duly way, and that the European Union will decide to have a concrete role, a strong role in pursuing peace between Russia and Ukraine, because I personally think that Russians and Ukrainians are brothers and they shouldn't kill each other. Thank you very much.
Thank you.